Hello everyone, welcome to the Wonder Year podcast. It's me, Paddy Raff, sitting here with Rigsy as ever.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good, yes.
Okay, so this week's Wonder Year podcast was with Andrew Trimble. I call him Andrew Trimble, you call him Andy Trimble, don't you?
Well, I'm, really good mates with him. Me and him go way back. We have played rugby together.
No, you didn't. I was just trying to. Did I
met
miss
him a
this?
couple of times. I bumped into him at Urban Outfitters once in Victoria Square, which would be a nice way to shout out.
Oh, what a segue! Brilliant segue there into the sponsor.
The very first time I met him, he was in Victoria Square. I'm a big fan of Andy Trimble. I like going to watch the rugby. He's obviously played for Ireland and Ulster. He's won the Triple Crown with Ireland. Scored an absolutely legendary try. In Paris, it was, to win the championship. I think it was 2014. He's played at 2 Rugby World Cups. But the reason why I'm such a big fan of him, well, there's a couple of reasons. First of all, he's really into his music. I bumped into him at Oxygen Music Festival as well. I always remember that.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. I think he was on his way to see him to watch you from afar, which would make sense. Well, you'll find out why that makes
because
sense.
Because he was watching them from afar.
Because he was watching them quite up close, ironically. But they feature a guy called Niall who Andy was in a band with. And this is what we're going to learn a lot about, but that's another reason why I like him. But
we kind of harmonise there. Andy was in a band with. It's just very subtle.
See, we're syncing up now. Yeah. We're 3 or 4 podcasts in. We're sharing the same
harmonic podcasting.
But the reason why I'm such a big fan of Andy is on the rugby is because I always end up getting tickets to go and see Ireland Six Nations quite last minute. You inevitably sit in the corner. And I have seen Andy score numerous tries like really close.
Oh, right, close
I'm
up.
like his lucky charm. It's like he's running towards me.
You're convinced?
I've seen maybe. Well, he plays in the wing, right? So he does score quite a lot of tries. But I've seen him score tries where I've been sitting very, very close to him. He just levitates towards me, gets over the line, puts the ball down.
You're his lucky charm.
I'm his little rabbit foot. I don't know if he realises it, but if it wasn't for me, he wouldn't have scored quite so many tries, especially for Ireland as well. Real high profile stuff too.
You didn't bother telling him all this when he was in here. You kept that to yourself.
I was only thinking about this morning
Andy,
when we knew we were going to be doing
charm.
the intro. Yeah, but
you were looking at me when you scored that try against Toulouse. No, you weren't.
This one's for Rigsy. But yeah, legend. On and off the rugby pitch, and just a really lovely guy.
And then, in this podcast, you find out a lot more about, because again, with the concept of picking a year and going back to it, he picked 99, which was, I think he was 18 maybe then, and he said that he was younger actually. He would have been younger, but basically, he started a band that year, and so I didn't realize that he was into music.
Big time. Well, not ruined. It's really funny. I'm hearing him talk about the band. I'm always teasing you about how not very rock and roll you are. Andy's a level down.
Yeah,
but also
being in a band at the time more geeky than I was. The name of the band, the Peach.
The name of the band,
and
just. But listen, he was in the. I would imagine the band were probably really good because the people that were in the band are very, very credible musicians.
And he just had to make do with being a rugby superstar.
Yeah, and he talks about how didn't really make it with a band. And I'm thinking you literally would go to like the Stade France or even down the Aviva playing for like 80,000 people and just going absolutely boogaloo.
So you segued into the Victoria Square and then have segued out of it without us talking about it. So now we have to awkwardly go back to it. So we missed the opportunity to segue nicely into.
We're getting there. We're not.
Oh, you're going to circle back, but basically, shout out to Victoria Square who sponsor the podcast. So you met, or whereabouts is Urban Outfitters?
Urban Outfitters. It's on the fringe of off Ann Street.
Okay.
That I met him in there, but it's one of the many wonderful shops that Victoria Square.
Here he goes again.
I just feel like I'm being really trashy the way that like a really sort of like I don't mean it, but I do.
You could literally just wax lyrical for however long about it. Wax lyrical actually sounds like a candle shop in Victoria Square.
It is, yeah. You go to wax lyrical.
I'm pretty sure that was a candle shop at one stage. But they're the sponsors of the podcast. Check out their
Cheers
gift card.
Guys. That's class.
Yeah, gift card is the way to go if you're crap at buying presents, which I am.
Gift card, movies, and food as well.
You can do it all in there. And so look, that's us for the introduction. We'll just get straight into the episode with Andrew Trimble, depending on how well you know him and whether or not he looked at you when he scored all his tries. And his wonder year is 1999.
The pandemic, we look back with, weirdly, the first, not the whole thing, not all the people that died.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we do have to Compartmentalize.
But the first lockdown was a great time of our lives.
Everybody has a favorite lockdown. It was mostly the first,
Yeah.
the difficult second lockdown. It was nobody
Yeah.
liked that one.
The
But
novelty
yeah,
of the first.
if you had kids, like you've got kids and all, like
Yeah.
did you not feel like the first, lockdown in general, when it was like that, was a time to, because you're obviously very busy, everything that you're doing on the side, multiple things going on. Did you not feel like it was a time to just be like, I can sit with the kids and give them time that you wouldn't have been able to?
Absolutely, it was amazing. Because Anna, my wife, was still off maternity leave at the time, so we had nearly a 1-year-old, whatever they all 3 and 5 they were, but the crack was brilliant. We just had some work done to our house, and we got like the garden all done. It almost looked in hindsight like we were preparing for, like we knew
You had a doomsday
those
garden.
Chinese guys are
Yeah.
up to something.
Yeah.
I think we should get our shit
You
together
were
and get
ahead
our,
of the
get our
curve.
back garden sorted out. Because the weather was amazing. Everybody was out, had the
Yeah.
trampoline, the kids were having the crack, and it was lovely. It was a really nice time. At the time, this always happens in hindsight, doesn't it? You always put kind of fonder memories on it.
Yeah.
But at the time, like, it was a wee bit stressful. You're going, oh, where is this going? This is a bit worrying. But looking back at it now, it's pretty much over.
Yeah.
That was a fun time.
Yeah, you do have that sort of golden era at the start of it, and then you started realizing that this is going to drag on quite a bit.
The golden era of the pandemic.
Yeah, the bit, yeah. Well, when you didn't know how bad it was going to get, like, and everything you thought, this is COVID in our house.
Yeah.
Like, I remember, I don't know if anybody else got like a dose of the runs at the very start of it, but I did, and I was frantically Googling, is having diarrhea part of it, and there'll always be a site that will say it is, so I was convinced, and I was like, this is it, I'm going to shit myself to death. There was a couple of days where I thought, this is the way I'm going to go. How am I going to tell people, but
you're right. So what sites present, what headline did you ever read? Diarrhea is not a symptom of
exactly
COVID.
Nobody's going to rule that out for you, so nobody's willing to take that punt. But yeah, it was we did a lot of that, sort of just chilling. The weather was great and all at the start of lockdown, and then but those 2 years, and I think that's one of those things that happens is, like, your mind kind of deliberately deletes. It is like a phenomenon where if you've gone through a really bad experience, your mind doesn't want to remember all the bits of it, so you kind of do just fast forward through it.
That's why we've got so many kids, because my wife keeps forgetting how horrific it is being pregnant and then giving birth to a child.
Then she's pregnant, she realizes this isn't any fun. Yeah.
This is the reason why. How did we end up with 7 kids?
Yeah. You don't have 7 kids, so you're on 3
3
now.
and we're arguing a lot over
Okay.
the potential of the 4th.
You for or against?
I'm against.
Oh, okay.
Massively.
You do remember then?
Yeah.
You haven't forgot.
Well, I've just been, I'm more pragmatic. I'm more stubborn. Well, we'll see who's more stubborn.
Who wins
Won't
out?
we?
How's that going to work though if you don't want to? Just
Well,
wanna
exactly. It's like
artificially come with us with you, get a syringe or something, and just like take.
Unless you just let your guard down.
Is your wife like a ninja? Like, let your guard. Before you know it, you've got another one in the oven.
I think we all know what I mean.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
The priorities change. I'm adamant, and I've said to enough people, and I'm saying it publicly that it's not happening.
That's not happening.
Yeah.
So we did a thing, didn't we, during the pandemic, where I interviewed you as Nigel, didn't I?
Yes.
Do you remember that?
It was a bit
mad.
It was a corporate thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. That was a weird experience, because I can't really remember what I said, but maybe that's like because it was so in character.
You're much more enjoyable to chat to.
Cheers, let's just do this as Nigel.
The real version.
Oh, really? Okay, I thought you were going to say as Nigel.
Sorry. No.
I was like, let's go get the wig on.
No, because you can't. You probably find this. Nobody can trust you when you got the wig on.
Yeah, you're kind of waiting on the.
Yeah, there's all like
being
he's
tripped
leaving me
up
somewhere here.
Yeah.
Everybody's tense.
So your guard up then.
Yeah.
Bit like with your wife, whenever she wants another child, you had to employ the same
I came away
methods.
pregnant that day. Actually,
Yeah, Nigel got you pregnant.
Yeah.
Very posh child it'll be.
Yes.
Great at rugby.
Yeah.
Just don't mess with the face.
Yeah.
Always
go
good
here
crack that
again.
day.
Don't
Yeah,
go
no,
here again.
let's not do it. Anybody listening that haven't slipped into Nigel. But Riggsy, we'll hit.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt all the lovely nostalgia about the global pandemic, and you're
Absolutely.
sort of thinking
Golden
about
era.
those, just how wonderful it was when all that was happening. But to go back to 1999 and some of the stuff that was happening in the world before we talk music, and so much music and movies to talk about. Very strong year, as Andy alluded to. Started Napster in 1999. So,
Yes.
Andy, I don't know where you found your music. Were you the type of guy that had a sneaky kind of what would you call it? Like not a stream. It would have been
We
like
download off Napster. Yeah, we
we
cheeky download.
Yeah, I think
Or did you have a dodgy mate in your class that would have had all that stuff done for you?
no, I didn't have any dodgy. I would love the dodgy mate back then. Anybody would do anything. For a
Maybe
dodgy
you were the dodgy mate then.
I wasn't. See, I wasn't quite technical enough because I didn't feel like I got enough. There was like I don't think our computer was good enough. I'm making excuses here. I don't think I really got into Napster. I was more into. Do you remember BitTorrent and Bit?
Yeah, that was a wee bit
same type of thing.
wee bit
Yeah.
later, but that
It was a wee bit. I was probably the next stage of that. I think.
yeah.
But yeah, I did try and download one of those ones anyway at my sister's house. Ended up putting some sort of
Virus
remember viruses
on the computer. Yeah.
Stuck a virus on a computer, and I
Yeah.
was never allowed to use her computer.
Viruses
again.
were like and pop-ups. Oh, I've got a pop-up virus.
Yeah.
Like, and I remember there was a few choice
Yeah.
people like tried to palm off. Oh, I've got a pop-up. Those boobs in the history are from a pop-up. It's like,
Yeah.
but why is it saying Google? You typed in boobs. You know, it's like it's a pop-up. It's
In
just
Google, it says that you would say that as an excuse as well.
Why
You
are
would say it as a
trousers around your
pop-up.
ankle? Oh, it's a pop-up. It's a pop-up. You know, but yeah,
These
the whole
pop-ups.
days that was the early days of you had to watch what you were downloading on Napster because there were some that would like ruin your computer.
Yeah.
You know, I definitely remember with Napster anyway. You used to have to. We got a computer towards the end. It wouldn't have been 99, so maybe 2000 and 2001. We got a computer. I think we were like a Grandford or something. But we got this, and when we got the internet into it, first of all, I did the thing of you had to like run the big long phone wire. It was up in the attic, so my mum knew when it was on the internet there was no sneaky getting on because this big massive phone wire had to get ran down through the whole house into the front, and she if she wanted to be on the phone to her auntie or whatever, she would have to get off, and there was always that conflict. But you used to have to this is how crap the streaming, like sort of the download rate was. If I wanted to download a song, I would have to start it like in the evening, and I would go to bed and turn off the monitor and everything. And by the time I got up in the morning, it might be about sort of 30-40% done. And then I would go to school and come back, and hopefully it'd be, and then it would get to the very end. It'd be like, yes, it's done.
Yeah.
And you click on it, and you listen, rolling,
Yeah.
all that. A full day for Limp Bizkit rolling, it wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
But that's how long the downloads would have took. Maybe it was just my area, crap dial-up, but
Isn't that why we appreciated stuff
Yeah,
back
you
then?
totally-
Kids nowadays.
yeah, it's so on like Spotify, you just can listen to anything. It's all
Yeah.
I do think that was the start of the end of the sort of that thing about music where it was all precious. You had certain albums that you went out and bought,
Yeah.
or because that was still a thing. CDs and all were still quite big then,
Yeah.
but that was kind of the end of them because it was all getting really accessible.
When would MIDI discs have been around?
Not long after, or
Yeah,
around
many
the
discs
same
were around
time.
that time as well. They had a very short shelf life, and
I
you could.
invested heavily in MIDI discs.
Yeah, a lot of
I
people
thought
did.
this is
You
the
got in there,
future. I
you
got
thought
it
you were
wrong.
getting on the ground floor.
Yeah, I got it wrong.
Did you ever buy an album on minidisc?
No,
Andy?
I only ever put all my CDs onto MIDI discs.
Yeah, because people did do that. You could buy What's the Story, Morning Glory on minidisc, which is a ridiculous concept, but an awful lot of people did that. So that's
Yeah.
a real waste of time. Like,
Yeah, yeah, it
for
never
what,
worked
for what
out.
they were supposed to be.
But yeah, I'm surprised your mom had to look for the lead, and because if you just picked up the phone, yeah,
she
it
would-
sounded. I always thought like dial-up internet sounded like Skrillex, that band?
Yes.
or like an MRI machine.
Yeah.
kinda-
It's a mixture of all of them.
yeah.
It's still one of those sounds though, like such a nostalgic sound when you hear it. Like it just takes
Ah.
you back.
Again, pleasant, but there's nothing pleasant about it.
No,
Like,
exactly.
memories,
Yeah. Bit like the pandemic.
Uh-huh.
You're like, remember all those days. No, but the thing was, do you remember we used to get like the internet was such a big expense as well. It was never always on.
Mm.
So you would look for certain like newspapers or whatever would have this week with the Telegraph you get an hour free
Yes.
CD.
Yeah.
One CD you stuck in and you got an hour of internet.
Yeah.
And like I used to literally sit, this is how sad I was, and I would like sort of do an itinerary of how I was going to spend this hour.
Yeah.
Like on a Friday, right? So I'll do 10 minutes on like there was like game sites and stuff like that. And then hopefully, if anybody pisses off, I might, look up, I don't know, Britney
Boobies.
Spears or something.
That's right.
Yeah, well, Britney Spears, but kind of keep it because like everybody used our computer, and I'd be like, "Dad, back of the queue, you're in the second half here." But yeah, an hour of like that's not like now your phone's connected, the internet's always on your house, multiple devices.
Yeah, there's a mate of mine that we do our podcast with. His name's Barry Murphy. He used to play for Munster. Now he's the singer in Herman's Green. So he told a story about how he downloaded a picture. He just loved the pink Power Ranger downloaded a picture of the pink Power Ranger with just her helmet on with her boobs out, printed it off, and it was sitting on the kitchen table. And his dad came home one day. It's like, Barry. Such a letdown. So we told this story in the podcast. He told it a couple of times. And then someone for Barry's birthday got in touch with the actor who played the Pink Power Ranger. And she did like one of these kind of celebrity messages to Barry. Told her the story. I assume it wasn't her. I assume it was someone ripping off.
Yeah.
Just putting a pink helmet on, really.
Ripping off her clothes and putting the pink helmet on.
Yeah.
A lot of talk about pink helmet here. Like, everybody drops in.
You mentioned Britney Spears. Britney Spears and Eminem both broke through in 1999. They were the big kind of acts. Awful lot of terrible music, and I'm sure we'll get to Andy's choice of music in a moment. But boy bands dominated the charts. A lot of Latino stuff. You had Louis Vega, Mambo No. 5,
yeah,
and Living La Vida Loca. Ricky Martin,
yeah.
And a lot of European kind of trancey pop stuff. So you had Blue and Eiffel 65.
Eiffel 65, yeah. I'm Blue, dabba dee dabba da.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And the Venga Boys.
Venga Boys, yeah.
So Britney versus Eminem, which could the world have lived without? If only one of them had to break through in 99, which one would you have preferred?
I don't know, what about you? I think I'm not really a big Eminem fan. I have a few mates that are, like, really idolise him, but nah, I think Britney.
Why do you not like Eminem, Paddy?
I don't know. It was it was a certain type of person idolised Eminem at that time. I found it was a lot of sort of fellas with like anger issues.
Aye.
And then it kind of gave them like a swagger and a reason to fellas that weren't into hip hop.
It sort of romanticized their attitude.
Yeah, it kind of legitimized it. It was, and then you got the bleach blonde, buzz cut kind of haircuts and the white vest and like FUBU, combat jeans and all, and just kind of it gave them like a personality to emulate all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And then they're apparently hip hop fans, even though they hadn't listened to any hip hop before that.
Well, whatever. I wasn't really that big a fan of Britney Spears or Eminem, to be honest. But did Eminem kind of was it groundbreaking because it was a white rapper?
Yeah, it was groundbreaking because it was very good. It was kind of cartoony as well. The whole, My Name Is, the first big breakthrough single. It was just really fun. It didn't take itself too seriously. He had a what do you call it? A second
alter ego.
An alter ego. Yes, an alter ego. And it was something different. And he's also working with Dr. Dre, who was, of course, the king of kind of West Coast hip hop. So there was a lot to unpack. But yeah, I think Eminem was and is great. I do.
You're a fan?
I wouldn't say, but not necessarily. I wouldn't go and listen to his music, but I can admire what he kind of achieved, and yeah.
I don't doubt his ability. I think he's very, very, very talented at what he does, but it just never really rang with me.
I was never really into it either. But yeah, I appreciated it, and yeah.
Decent music in 1999. It was kind of the end of the sort of, I suppose, Britpop, really. But number one albums from Blur, Catatonia, Suede, Jamiroquai, Chemical Brothers, Travis, and Left Field. Very, very credible list, mostly. I mean, those bands or their sort of 2022 equivalent would not get number one albums. How many of them were you into, Andy?
Most of them, not Left Field. What were the other ones there?
So Blur, that would have been 13.
Blur,
that was that was post Britpop for them. They were doing something a bit different at that point.
Blur was the first album I bought. The Great Escape.
Yeah. Country House album.
Yeah.
Catatonia.
No, not really.
Suede.
Yes,
Suede.
but not as much as Blur.
Texas.
Yes.
Oh, right. Jamiroquai.
Yes, very much. So I went to see Jamiroquai at the Odyssey.
That's right. Yeah.
And I was the only one of my kind of friendship group that liked Jamiroquai, so I really had to beg and plead this one of my friends who didn't like Jamiroquai to come with me.
The Chemical Brothers?
Yeah.
I'll not have a bad word said about the Chemical Brothers by anybody, so that's good. Travis, do you remember how big Travis were?
That album, The Man Who, was huge that year, or the year
number
before.
3. It sold 1,410,000
Yeah,
copies.
it was actually a really good album. I had it, and again, like with the whole sort of computer thing, I got a CD-ROM version of it in like HMV, so it was a wee bit dearer. and you were like, oh, it's got CD-ROM, it's got like stuff on it that you put into the computer and you can do. And I think like when you put it in, it took over the screen, and it said, like Travis the Man Who was slightly animated, and you could like click on a few pictures of the band, and this was like mind blowing. Like you bring your mates around to your house, come here to see this.
Come on, click 3 pictures.
Pictures of Travis, the band. They're like, but this was huge. And then you just had the album on it. That was the sort of the height of it with the CD
that was the special edition. That's what differentiated it from all other
Yeah.
CDs.
They played the Odyssey, not in 1999, obviously, when the Odyssey was there, but a few years later, they were huge. And now, I don't know, where would they play in Belfast? Maybe the Ulster Hall, or be like. So they're one of those bands that were huge.
Of their time.
Forget how big they were, but such a lovely record.
Did they drop off quickly? Did he fall
Yeah.
up?
Did a couple of albums after, but yeah, I remember there was like, by the time, I remember like Flowers in the Window and all came out,
Yeah.
it was getting towards that sort of era. But their drummer had a really bad accident. Did you ever
That's right,
remember
yeah,
that?
yeah.
He dived into a pool and like hit the bottom of it and broke his spine. And then weirdly as well, Alien Ant Farm from about that era, I think their drummer pretty much had the same thing, where it was like just this era of drummers, like almost like Spinal Tap was coming true again, that these drummers were all crooked. But like that sort of era of nostalgia bands is definitely coming back. Like, as Wheatus and all, a friend of mine booked Wheatus to play the Empire a few years ago, and they got a big crowd for that and all. And
But that's just Wheatus. I mean, as a DJ, a Wheatus would be in my kind of in case of emergency break glass. If you stick on Wheatus, and it's not like in any type of crowd, everybody knows every single word of that one song that they kind of have.
Yeah.
So you do wonder, people going along and they're all just kind of play it.
Yeah.
And then there's just like an hour of a bit. I think they did a cover of
Respect,
yeah. So that would
and
be good.
the thing was with that kind of annoyed me. It was one of those things where they covered a song that they had a big hit with in America, and everybody in America thought that it was their song by sort of default almost.
Is that the Erasure?
The Erasure, A Little Respect. It was actually a decent cover of it, but it wasn't. But like the fact that they
That's
were,
happened throughout the history of music, where people have made songs that it turns out they were complete cover versions.
like a lot of Jimi Hendrix ones got covered, didn't it? Or wasn't it? No, it was Jimi Hendrix did All Along the Watchtower, and it was Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan
It was
song.
Bob. He's the one. Sorry, there's always loads of examples of Bob Dylan songs that were made really big by other people. Not that he needs, not that he was short on a few
And
hits.
some
like,
of those he kind of everyone sort of says, nothing compares to you, but that Prince gave that
gave
song
that
to
away.
Sinead O'Connor. It's
That's
not,
they remember tonight we're going to party like it's 1999, and like that got a big resurgence in 1999 because of the whole thing. But do you remember, like, what did you do for the millennium? Because that was a big thing that year. Everybody kind of planning where am I going to go, what I'm going to do.
We had a house party at the time at a friend's house. It was as you say, everybody was talking about what they were going to do, and then it was the same as every other New Year's Eve.
It was crap.
Yeah, it
in
was
the
just
end.
crap. Yeah. One of my standout memories from 1999 was Reef played.
Place Your Hands.
Yeah,
Remember them,
yeah, played at the Red Bull Festival at the waterfront.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we were on our way home. We'd played at a rugby match, and we were on our way home. My friend's mum and dad said, "Listen, we'll bring you along to this event." And then Reef were playing. So whenever again, this is one of these ones where I was like, "Please let that have happened in 1999." Yes,
Yeah,
Nailed
a
it.
good memory.
Yeah. But I realised then from looking revisiting it there yesterday, Snow Patrol played that as well, which I didn't even know at the time.
Snow Patrol weren't Snow Patrol then, though. They were. I mean, I dine out on how huge, obsessive a fan I was of Snow Patrol. Those first two records, nobody cared. The world shrugged.
Yeah.
Really, but
What was the story? Were they just playing, gigging around Belfast, gigging around
yeah, they
Scotland?
played shows in places like the Duke of York, the old Morrisons, which is Puguglies now.
Yes, that's right.
I've
Yeah.
often told the story of doing the door whenever Snow Patrol played a gig in Morrison's, and I think there was like 37 people paid in, and Gary Lightbody smashed his guitar on stage during the gig and got in loads of trouble because they couldn't afford to smash guitars. And then the promoter of the gig, who I'll not name him, Colin M, we'll call him. C. Murray, he's maybe a little less obvious. He vomited in the speaker or something that was hired, and that just sort of lost his deposit or something. So yeah, they would have played very, very small venues and couldn't get arrested, and released two absolutely incredible records that the world did not, and kind of, subsequently, continue to not care about.
As in, so even since they got big, then people
They
don't
did.
go back.
Everyone thought that Final Straw was assumed it was their first record, and there was one song from those first two albums that's dead in their set for a few years, and then it has kind of disappeared now.
Yeah.
And it's a real shame because they're brilliant records. So it's just like they had this total fresh start, and then they just abandoned their past life, which was incredible.
But yeah, I don't even know that I'd heard of Snow Patrol around Belfast, but they were just like, they were kind of the local band.
Yeah,
And they were
no
local was the word. Like even though they were based in Scotland, they were just another, pay £3 and go and see them at York or in some grubby bar.
Yeah.
Because I worked in a call centre in 2003 or 2 did I start in it, and Snow Patrol I remember were coming up. Everybody was talking about them. Were going to do big things, and there was a girl in my training group who was going out with the bass player, and she like kind of was telling, "Oh my, I go out with the bass player, going out with the bass player." And I saw her like a couple of weeks later when we were on the floor kind of working. I hadn't seen her in a while, and I went to say about how's I see Snow Patrol playing blah blah blah, and she's like, "Oh, he's not in them anymore." And I think this sacked her boyfriend. She was kind of a wee bit bitter about it, and like everybody.
Did she dump him then?
I don't know. I didn't work with her long enough to find out.
The new drummer.
Yeah, oh, that would have been no. It was the bass player, but that would have been maybe she just changed up instruments. But she was a wrestler. I remember telling me she was like a wrestler. She was just crazy.
Really?
Like,
was there a big wrestling scene in Belfast back then?
No, not really. But she kind of, I don't remember what happened to her after that. But she just remembered that she always went on about and then it's like, no, I'm not gonna. He's not in the band anymore.
Yeah,
kind of cut ties. So you were house party. Do you remember much of the house party? Was it good crack?
It was all right. It was all right.
What did you do for the big countdown then to midnight? Because that was a big deal for everybody.
Yeah, I honestly don't really remember much about it. But bear in mind, we were only 15, so we might have got a few cans, or there wouldn't have been much going on, much mad stories then really. But yeah, no, there wouldn't be much to it. Just a few of us, maybe 15 or 20 of us, around at someone's house. Pretty chilled out. Pretty disappointing.
Did you do anything like where did it ever cross your mind, and this is true, every podcast I bring something up that Riggsy just goes, did you actually do that? Where I decided I wanted to be the first person to say something in the new millennium. So I was like, I was like, go on, think about it, when the clock strikes midnight I'm going to say something, even just to myself.
You've been dining out that for years to come.
Yeah, and I said something vaguely along the lines, I was like, had to think of something that's like so out there that nobody else will say, because if it's Happy New Year, you're not going to be the first to say that, and it was something to do with like cows on the moon or whatever, but I was the first person to say that.
You were trying to be the first person to say anything in
just a specific. I'll be the first person to ever say this specific phrase in the new millennium. So that was like my year 2000. And then it was like, bing, everybody's Happy New Year, and I'm in the corner saying this thing, cows jumping over a thing on the moon, and then hey, Happy New Year. Like, what were you doing there? I was like, I just wanted to be the first person to say.
You'll know someday.
Yeah, it'll be on my tombstone.
Yeah,
first person.
Let the record books reflect.
Yeah, the moment in history.
It's like people just love having these ridiculous. I have a friend whose brother, this is such a random thing, but his brother has always dined out in the fact that he was the first person out of his entire family to eat a lion bar. And it's just like, and no one can factually dispute that, but that's his thing. You're like, why is that?
I remember there was a wee fella in our street who always told people we were the first ones to get Sky in this street, and like you introduced the new mates. We were the first to get Sky. I was like, all right, he won it off a Kit Kat. Like literally, like you open the Kit Kat, like free Sky for a year. They got Sky, like, but nobody else in our street had Sky. So like people were like literally, have you seen Sky? And like we were all down looking at a Sky dish. Like this is the first time we'd seen
stand outside the house.
Yeah, outside the house, just like weren't watching the TV, just actually looking at the dish.
Yeah. I'm trying to change the channel.
Oh yeah, getting them watches to change channels. I have a question from you, or for you, from my kids on the subject of 1999, because I was telling my son about it last night. Then that I was going to be chatting about that. So this is his question.
My dad was telling me about the millennium bug. Were you ever afraid of it?
The millennium. Just wondering. Were you afraid of the millennium bug? Because remember there was a hype around.
Yeah, there was a hype actually, and there was a bit of anxiety and fear around it, but I didn't understand it. I remember asking my dad what it was, and then he was able to tell me. I don't even know if this is my dad's explanation. He wasn't technical back in 1999.
Right, okay.
That whenever the dates changed, then it just like fucks all the tech up, basically.
I think because you were telling me earlier on, we were talking about this morning. All the zeros, is that it?
Yeah, he was on the right track apparently. Yeah, because I remember it being a big thing. The millennium bug. Like they literally thought that it would strike midnight and planes would be dropping out of the sky and all that. Because Yeah, so basically when it went from 99 to 00, that the computer programs would think it was back to 1900s.
1900, yeah.
So, or 1900, yeah, so that was it. But it never transpired.
Yeah.
But there was a big thing on TV and all. There used to be adverts, are you ready for the Millennium Bug?
Yeah.
You know, and the big switch over, and they would have people. I just think it was a way of businesses making money, going out, oh, we'll train you for the Millennium, you know, sort of switch over.
Yeah.
And it was the biggest damn squib. You know, much like our parties, you know, it was just like nothing really happened. There was just a kid in the corner saying the first line, I jumped over the moon. It was like didn't transpire.
Yeah.
But everybody went mad about the Millennium, like the Millennium Dome. Angel of the North, was that for the Millennium? Like there was a lot of artsy kind of things.
Oh, right, yeah.
Like the Millennium, like there's
Millennium Stadium.
Millennium 4,
Cardiff.
everything was named after the Millennium. It was such a big thing, and
Yeah.
I think it was a wee bit naff looking back on it.
Subsequently being renamed. The
and
the
Cardiff
Millennium
had
Stadium Cardiff has changed names now. Principality Stadium.
Yeah. I got funny. What happened was I remember it being really big, for musicians and stuff. In that the amount, because my dad played in like a band, and they got paid like an insane amount if you did Millennium Eve. You know that, and with that money, I got my first guitar, and that's how I ended up getting like really into music, and I ended up kind of like making a career out of it or whatever. So it was a bit weird that extra bit of money, because we wouldn't have had the money to get me a guitar. It was only like a 60 quid one from Matchett's, you know, like a wee Westfield. But you know, it started me on the path of going down music route. I think I have another question for you here. This one's from Clara. Yeah, so this is Clara, who's 4. Here we go.
Hi, Andrew. If you didn't play rugby, then what would you do?
That's a great question. So I never knew what I wanted to do when I was a kid. Only ever really enjoyed rugby, and I never wanted to do. I applied for like physio or optometry or like other stuff that, you know, basically mum and dad said apply for that. That would be good. So I never really knew the only thing I ever wanted to do was play rugby. To be fair, so it was anything else was always going to be a plan B. So plan B, it's a feral drop down because I really enjoyed playing rugby so much. I think potentially, I would have gone into something very boring and very one-dimensional, something like that. I'd applied to go and study optometry in Cardiff. I probably would have done that. And then had quite a boring life, you know, quite a one-dimensional boring life.
You sound like you would have been comfortable
He
with
played
that.
the
Though,
drums in a band.
I know, so
Well, I got kicked out. Well, I didn't get kicked out. I kind of.
He's too rock and roll.
And I'm not going to say I left the band either, because that sounds very dramatic. But whenever I left school, the guys in the band, then they took a year out.
So hold on, when did you start your band?
We started the band I don't know if it would have been 99, maybe the following year. Might have been 5th year. Sorry, actually, it probably would have.
What did you call the band?
we were called Crèche.
Crèche?
Crèche.
Right.
Because we used to practice in the children's room in the church hall.
How rock and roll.
I know, we're
Crèche.
bad bastards. So, we just used to do covers and stuff, and then started writing I didn't, but the guys started writing some of their own stuff, and some of it was okay. And then Nal Kennedy from And So Watching for Farm was in the band. A couple the other guys. Daniel was in
More Than Conquers.
No.
Oh no, it's way before that.
No, he was in that. What do you call that band with a choir basically?
Oh, the Lowly Knights.
Lowly Knights. He was in the Lowly Knights. And then Tim, he played in wedding bands and stuff like that. So I was the weakest link, very obviously. And then I think they were all relieved that, you know, I was kind of more interested in pursuing a career in rugby, because that gave them the opportunity to replace me. But they changed the name then to Split the Sky was the name of the band after that, which is, you know, a lot, you know, probably.
That sounds a lot cooler than
It's
Crèche.
a lot cooler than Crèche.
Did you spell it a different way, like
Oh,
Crèche,
you know
or
what we
was it
did?
like, here we go? Was there a dollar sign for the S or something
No, there was an accent.
on the E?
Yeah.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
Like it's so French, you know,
Yeah.
like crème fraîche.
Exactly, and I had a set of like a wee 4-piece Premier, whatever, I can't remember exactly. And I got a stenciled out Crèche in like kind of gold paint on my kick drum with the accent. It might have been. I think it was an acute.
Yeah. Oh, so it was the wee. Which is which?
Is that a Sedilla? What's that? Or no, that's
No, that's-
I think. Sorry, it wasn't a cute. It was the hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever that's
The
called.
French one,
Yeah.
chapeau chinois, I think we called it Chinese.
Tell us one of the covers that you did, or tell us a couple, and then see if me and Paddy can complete the set list given by
Oh,
to get a
okay.
vibe
Yeah,
for
what
the
we
type of
is
stuff.
into.
Yeah.
Okay, we played some Green Day.
Right, so
Basket
they're
Case.
gonna do. So if they
doing-
play Green Day, they're bound to play.
Were you a good drummer?
Nirvana.
I was I was
You
a
can
lot.
be, you can,
I was average. I was average enough. I
Okay.
got okay actually.
so Green
Peaked
Day.
at the age of 16.
Nirvana.
Nirvana, yeah.
Did you do any of the kind of Britpop stuff to do Oasis?
No, we didn't. No, we did.
Smashing Pumpkins. You mentioned Smashing Pumpkins.
We love the Smashing Pumpkins. I'm not sure if we ever, because Jimmy Chamberlain was always very difficult to.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Soundgarden.
No. I
Foo
think
Fighters?
I think we did some Rage Against the Machine though.
Against the Machine, of course, Rage Against the Machine.
In the church Crèche, you
Yeah,
say it was like attached to the church and you were knocking out.
yeah, Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, killing in the
And
name,
was the-
killing in the
was
name of the
band?
Father and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Oh dear. I'm always interested in this. So did you guys all meet through the church, and was the church kind of involved by giving you that room, and was there an obligation for it to be a kind of almost like a faith thing, or was it?
No, not really. There was never an obligation, and whether they even knew that because one of the guys' dad kind of was involved, so he had keys. So we just basically let ourselves in and just practiced away. And the weekends we would have gone down, or maybe in the summer holidays, Easter holidays, we would have gone down, practiced for an hour, and then just gone into Portrush, and
Yeah.
you know, and I had a fake ID at the time. So we went to the off license and I used my fake ID to get a bottle of Peach Concord. We went
Oh no.
Crèche on the Peach Concord.
Peach Concord. Peach
They were the
Concord
days.
never became one of these marquee alco pops like Blue Wicked or Smirnoff Ice.
Yeah.
Peach Concord.
Yeah.
Probably like a lot of the artists we just talked about kind of just went the
Yeah.
other direction. Maybe Travis.
Yeah, it sounds like the middle class version of the Jack Daniels bottle. You know, you went in, he was lying surrounded by bottles of Peach Concord.
Do you like Peach Concord and the music of Crèche?
The Venn diagram has a tiny overlap. in it.
Yeah, just very slight.
So-
It's so similar actually to me. Whenever I started, we started covering. We got a wee band together to do covers, and the first time we ever did would have been 2000 and maybe 3 or 4, and it was the same thing. It was like the chapel that we went to. They had a room, and we got the keys off somebody, and we went in and just did anything, you know. And we actually did get kicked out of it because they heard us doing like Black Sabbath and stuff, you know. And
All right, yeah.
most of the priests were fine with it, but one priest there was a bit of a change in guard, and he came in and he heard and he bust in. He was raging, like proper chewed us out over it. And I was only in my sort of maybe late teens, early 20s, and like I remember my ma was raging.
Yeah,
Like she was going to go to the
priest, like,
parochial
that's-
house and like sort of, you know, drag him out because he really lost his shit, like because I suppose we were playing like Black Sabbath or whatever. But so you weren't really going, if you were doing that kind of stuff, your covers were going to be mainly for your age group, kind of like to try and do what, like, did you ever do big like a gig then, or was it just always you practice loads
We
and
did a few gigs. Yeah, we played. Where do we play? We played Korean Church Hall at one stage. Actually, we did Korean Church Hall, and then Daniel from the Lonely Knights. A policeman came into that. I think we did a free gig, and it was like we got a decent, what we thought was a decent crowd. Policeman come in. Obviously, he was just walking the beat up and down the pedestrian area in Korea, and just come into the town hall. And Daniel goes, Wayne's World was out in '99.
Okay.
So Daniel goes, does anybody smell bacon? And then Tim goes, well, I definitely smell a pork product of some description. And then this guy wrote a letter of complaint to us, or maybe the church, or maybe we used to play. There was another where was it? He wrote. I can't remember how we got this letter of complaint, and we had to apologize to the policeman in Korean over the back of it, throwing out Wayne's World quotes.
oh, he took it to heart, like
That
you know?
is rock.
That is pretty rock and roll.
isn't it?
That's
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
sounds like the ombudsman. Like, do we really have to investigate this? You know,
Yes,
this is
yes,
going
we
too far.
do. By the stubborn guy who's been humiliated in front of 114-year-olds.
That'll happen when you have one too many Peach Concords. You know?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
we've all
yeah.
been there. Like,
And we played, where else did we play? We played the Montague in Portchurch. And there was like, you wouldn't call it a stage, but that was the stage. It was just basically an area where there was 2 or 3 tables laid out, and we were frantically, we were like, we gotta do sound check in like 15 minutes here. And there was one couple still eating their apple tart and ice cream. I was like, you're up and eat your apple tart. We have to do sound check. Move that table, please. Where else did we play? I can't remember really. We didn't last long, to be fair. And then the other guys, then they started. I think they moved to London for 6 months. Like, moved to London. That sounds that sounds a bit too formal or official. But yeah, we'd good crack, good times.
Very good.
Did you ever have aspirations to be, did you ever daydream about being a rock star, or was it just I just want to be a rugby star?
Yeah, we did. But it became it was pretty clear to me. I think maybe the other guys they all kicked on and played in bands, local bands in Belfast and stuff. But for me, it was very clear that I probably wouldn't be a part of it if they did. It's
very tough being in a band. It's not like, you don't make it, unless you hit a real level, you don't make it, you just about, you can scrape by and make a living.
Yeah.
That level of dedication. Very similar to what you would need, I would imagine, to be an elite sports person, which, Andy, of course, you will know all about that. So it's the same sort of approach, but that's what you need, just being able to suffer an awful lot.
Yeah.
It's not like you rocking up with a mic and you don't have to do sound checks. You don't have to arrive 6 hours before. There's no load-ins. You just turn up and you don't know you're living in it with a fake with a moustache and a wig and a
there's
and a mic.
a lot goes into that,
Well, doing comedy though is not. I mean,
it's a gift. Isn't it?
Technically,
the stress that must come with doing comedy. You have to a crowd full of people, and they're just looking at you, staring.
Don't give them the credit. You're ruining my point.
I think that's brutal. I think that's horrific.
You've stood in front of 80,000 people. And you're
you don't have to make them laugh, although they did laugh once or twice.
Unintentionally. Yeah. But when you're saying about bands and like that scene of having to be, I came at music the same way as you did, getting in the band with your mates just to do kind of covers and enjoy it. And then there's always people in the band who kind of wanted to make that next step to be creative and actually make their own make their own stuff. And I always felt like whenever I was doing it, that was never an option because there was no money in that. We were aiming to play in bars, do covers and play in bars, and you just didn't have the time, and you knew how hard it was, because I think the scene here, it isn't really, well, maybe it's different now, but it didn't really support young artists as much, in that you knew if you were going out to do your own stuff, it was going to be really hard. There wasn't really much of a scene for it. More of the sort of thing like scene in like Bristol and London and things like that, where it would be a bit more vibrant. I always remember just knowing really good musicians who started doing covers, went out then to do their own thing, made absolutely no inroads into it, and then ended up having to ditch it after so many years. So we just kind of stuck to the covers.
It's way more daunting.
You just decided, I'm just going to be an elite sports person.
Yeah, plan B.
It's so much easier.
Yeah, isn't that what happened? Ryan McMullen. Wasn't it Foy Vance took him aside and said, all that, yeah, all those covers are all great, they sound amazing, but he was kind of shrugging his shoulders, unimpressed. Let me hear your stuff.
He wanted to be an elite sports person. He's the sort of opposite of you. Yeah, he was excellent and hurling player.
Is that right? Really?
And then during lockdown joined East Belfast, the GA club.
That's
and
right.
Plays and is a top hurler.
Yeah.
Didn't know that
about Ryan McMullen. So he was somebody who was too talented in music to pursue what he really wanted to do, which is sport, which is you were kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
When was it you left the band, and was it purely down to the fact that it was a division of how much time you were given? Because you have to be doing so much.
We're talking, like, interviewing about, and I'm on your side, Paddy, but it's just like, when did all we've talked about is the band that he was in for like 6 months.
Interesting. Yeah.
This guy scored numerous tries.
That's where we're going to go to. Yeah,
won
it's
the
like,
6
when
did
did
in the Triple Crown.
Were you like bouncing back to do?
What was the favourite cover that you did?
So yeah, it was whenever I left school, or it was maybe final year at school. I think the other guys were keen to go after it a wee bit, and then I was just going, well, it's never really. I loved it, loved the crack, loved gigging, loved practicing, loved Peach Concord, but I was going, well, I'm keen to kind of get. By that stage, I'd done a couple of years of kind of hard training, and I'd started to develop a little bit and started to be a bit more dominant in Schools Cup rugby and play for Ulster schools, Irish schools. And I got an opportunity then with to join. It used to be back then, instead of regional academies, it was like a national Ireland academy with kind of regional bases. Then I joined that after school, and it was lonely. It was lonely because all of my mates were going up to Portstewart that whole summer, having the crack, playing football on the beach, running around, probably a few Peach Concords, I'd say. But I was in like either driving up and down to Belfast or staying in a student flat down there by myself all summer. Belfast, from a student perspective, was empty, so I was just training every day. It was actually, I remember saying to my mates, like, I feel so out of the loop. Oh, your mates after school, that's the best summer of your life.
Yeah.
You go, and I never really got to do it. So like that's the sacrifice you kind of make.
Yeah.
But that sacrifice is a reflection of how excited I was about playing rugby professionally. But yeah, I think I starting to get excited about rugby happened in 1999 because Ulster beat Toulouse, then Ulster beat Stade Francais, and then they got to the final and they beat that French team that I can't really pronounce, or always pronounce it incorrectly. But we were on the ski trip in January whenever they beat Stade Francais, and I remember we were all cheering and having a crack watching the game, and like everybody was just loving it. We were all just excited about Ulster, and then I was getting excited about coming home from that ski trip and playing in the Medallion Shield first round against Regent, and I was coming back from injury, so I was only wee. I was a bit of a late developer. I hadn't a pube to my name in 1999, but I used to kind of throw my weight around, always still hit people really hard, and I must have hit someone big number 8 and hit him and like fractured my collarbone. So I hadn't played in about 6 weeks, and then up to the first round of the Medallion Shield. And my dad, as industrious as he was, he reinforced my shoulder pads with carpet underlay, which wouldn't have been World Rugby approved. So I wonder if we get cancelled retrospectively.
Like medals taken off.
Yeah, get stripped of the Medallion Shield.
because of a bit of carpet tile under your thing. Yeah, so literally like just underlay, like the kind of rubbery stuff.
The stuff, the foam, like the wee bubbly stuff.
Yeah.
So he stuck some of that in, and then I just went out and played that game. We beat them, and then we had a bit of a run. We drew with Metheny in the final, so we shared the Medallion Shield, and that was me. I was just absolutely loving rugby, and then started to love rugby more. So then that summer, then that's when we would have been having the crack, whatever. I would have started to gym quite a bit in that summer, and we would have been those wee dickheads, like 15-year-old dickheads, arriving at the like the leisure centre gym for like $1.99 or whatever it was a go. And on the bench press machine, like we all went and bought singlets and all,
like a gang showing up.
Yeah. And then just started to get put on a wee bit of weight, did a lot of track work, a lot of running.
Yep.
Started to get a bit faster, and then finally got some pubes, and then just grew a bit.
There's no stopping you then.
There's no once.
What age was it then that you kind of did sort of grow? Because I was maybe a bit similar. I was very small and very, very scrawny, and then like over one summer between, I think like maybe fifth year going into the lower sixth, I went away. Obviously, we were off for like 2 months for the summer, and came back like so much taller.
Yeah.
And like different haircut and all that. Literally, people.
Yeah.
There's ones that thought that was a different person in school. Like, and I was like, oh my God, it's Paddy. My voice broke and all. Then I was quite late. It was a bit sad, but
the different haircut though wasn't. That's just a decision though, isn't it?
That was just I knew what I was doing there. I was wanted this mystique of being the new guy, like one of them, high school movies at the time. But yeah, so that almost happened overnight over one summer. Were you the same, or was it kind of more?
It was. I don't know if it was over a summer. I don't know when it was. It must have been probably fifth year at some stage, because fifth year I started doing quite well. I'm only thinking when it would have aligned with me kind of doing really well in rugby.
Were you waiting on it happening? Like, as in, were you going, at some point I'm going to get a pube and then there'll be no stopping me? Is this what you were, like, were you genuinely thinking?
Certainly hoping.
Because it's obviously so big in your sport, that you're like,
Tubes.
And then everybody's checking for them in the shower, like, So you think then it was more gradual, but you noticed the difference.
I definitely noticed the difference, and it would have been maybe in the run up towards the end of fifth year, because my sister came home from uni. My two sisters are 4 and 5 years older than me. They come back from uni, and I came in the door, and she was like, "What on earth happened to you?" I was like 3-4 inches taller than I was.
Underlay.
It's the So and I remember that reaction, going, "Geez!" And then my voice broke.
Yeah.
as well. And same
You
sort
do
of thing.
notice those reactions from other people, don't you? And I remember that I used to, true story, get mistaken for my younger sister, or no, my older sister Claire, when I answered the phone in the house, on the house phone. So I'd answer the house, I'm like, hello, and they'd be like, hi, Claire, is your mummy there? I'd be like, it's Patrick, and then I remember one day answering the phone. It was the first time it ever happened. I was like, hello, and then I thought it was my dad. I'm like, hello, Pat, is Anne there? I'm like, it's Patrick, but I'll go again. I was like, yes.
Yeah, I've landed.
That's it. I've changed. Like, yeah. So
Yeah.
your sisters came back. You're like, you were just massive all of a sudden.
Yeah, I was tall, and I think it was my voice was the first thing to break, and then but it didn't go through like a wee squeaky. You know,
You just
kind of.
went switched.
I just switched.
Yeah.
It was really. And even I was going, I don't know what is going on here. This is
You're
weird.
lucky because that whole period is
Yeah.
up and
Yeah,
down, like
yeah.
voice cracking.
Very stressful.
Class.
It's very embarrassing. Like,
Yeah.
when like girls your age and all, like, what is going on with you? You're obviously in that wee developmental
Yeah,
stage.
God help.
Don't patronize me.
But you're switched overnight.
My
You were
switch.
lucky.
Yeah, I was lucky. And then usually, I remember someone saying to me at the time, that was a real worry actually, because someone said to me at the time, usually your voice is the last thing to break, is the last thing to go.
Okay.
I went, what do you mean? I mean, I haven't grown yet. Then it did follow up, and I got a bit bigger, and then started training loads, and then started just playing way better rugby. It's just a lot easier when you've got a bit of size behind you. So yeah, that was me. That was then that was going from fourth year into fifth year. Fifth year played seconds, and then I'm even in fifth year. I must have still been small in fifth year, because I remember there were 3 or 4 lads in fifth year that were training with the first, and I was with the seconds the whole time. And I remember being devastated coming home because they were just switched over in the training session, and I was there. Surely I'm gonna get. I need to get picked here. I remember, like, again, this sounds like I've had a lot of dramatic conversations with my dad about the millennium bug. Designing
He's always
shoulder
there
pads.
for you, you know.
Yeah. And then I said to him, Dad, what's the story? Why are those lads? And he said, don't worry, son. And this has stuck with me. He said, don't worry, son. Those boys are living on borrowed time. So he was like, you'll be there eventually. Take your time. Don't worry about
Quite
it.
sinister as well. Like,
A little bit, yeah.
take away,
Like as if he was going to take them
hobble
out.
them. Yeah, but that like he's doing right by you, letting you know.
Yeah, they're living on borrowed time. As in, he had a lot of confidence that I was
Yeah.
going to kick on. It was going to be good, and he was right, and it was fine, and there was nothing to worry about at the time, because then I was up with the first shortly after that. And that was me then, just plain sailing, kind of just loving rugby.
When do you think you're at your pinnacle then? Sort of how much longer after that? Like career highs and stuff like that? What would you say was the...
See, I had a
year?
bit of an unusual kind of route, because unusual. If I tell you what happened, it'll seem unusual, but I actually think it's replicated quite a lot of other athletes out there. So I remember coming through quite early. I was always like very athletic, very fast, very powerful. I just used that. So I didn't really think too much about the game. Probably didn't develop enough skill or ability to just contribute in other ways. It was just, for me, it was just about smashing people and then just carrying really hard and really just being really elusive and just being a good athlete. So that gets you till you're about 23. And then you start to realize, actually, there's other guys here who are equally really good athletes. And then I started to have to think through. So it became a bit more thoughtful, slightly more of a scholar of the game, just taking in, what do I have to do? How do I kind of manufacture a performance rather than just going out and seeing how good you can be? And I plateaued a little bit, picked up a couple of injuries, plateaued. Your gym scores never get anywhere near they were when you're 21. That's it. Like, it's weird. When you're 21, you're hitting peaks. You're lifting more than what the senior guys, your heroes, are lifting in the gym. You're going, I've got so much more ceiling to go here as well. But you never hit it because you pick up injuries and you struggle, or maybe after you playing every week, then you can't lift the same in the gym, all that sort of stuff.
So brutal, like that. You're measuring yourself in that way. I've never really thought about that. You would be, especially in your sport, measuring the weights and all that stuff. And so you saw it. Do you say plateau at 21?
Plateau, or drop off a little bit just with injuries. But I shouldn't have been, to be fair. I was quantifying how good a rugby player I was by what I was lifting in the gym or how fast I was, which is one element of performance. And I started that was probably come with me going back to the drawing board, right? What makes me good, right? And how can I get better? And I remember at one stage, I hadn't played for Ireland for about a year and a half, maybe one game or something. But definitely a very obvious plateau. And I remember I got to 24. I got to 20. I had 24 caps, and I turned 24, and I went, "Is my age about to overtake my number of caps?" and then I'll never be able to get back. You know, it was just like as if, oh no, it's a
What
weird
a way to measure it. Like,
it's a weird thing to think about. But then I started. I suppose I just started thinking through how I was performing. Then Joe Schmidt arrived. This is a few years later, and he just tapped into something in me that just got another kind of level of performance. So then that was whenever I peaked. I peaked whenever I was basically 28, 29, 30, just started just performing way better, just understanding there's more than just your physical attributes, you know, how to need to fit in other ways. And so that was really good for me. So I kind of peaked in my late 20s, early 30s, basically. And then once I was done like that. 33, I was 100% done, clearly done, and had been playing really well 12 months earlier. But it was as clear as day for me. I'm done. And I hated the place. I couldn't be arsed with rugby anymore. Hated training, hated playing, just wanted to do something different. Which a lot of guys I find that transition from professional sport into the afterlife.
Yeah.
They find it quite difficult because you're going, oh, I don't know what else I'm good at.
But you were ready for it.
When you said to me at the start, like, what would you be doing if you weren't playing rugby?
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing now and I love what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
But back then, I don't know.
Yeah, you wouldn't have.
You know, and it's a bit of an identity crisis as well. You know, you're going, well, who are you? You know, you're not the rugby guy anymore. What are you? So yeah, I was ready for that. But a lot of people, I think, maybe if they don't have that moment of being ready for it, then they're kind of struggling and they're searching. You know, what's going on here? But anyway, I was lucky that I had that mindset. I was done. I was happy. I'd done what I did, and I was keen to move on.
You get the band back together then?
Yeah, who am I? I'm the drummer from Crèche. That's who I am. Get the sticks out and away you go. I was saying to Riggsy actually earlier about, you know, sort of the irony then of sort of us kind of having the same, you know, being the same age and, you know, having that era of trying to be in a covers band. And for me, it stuck in a way. The first band I got together, we ended up, you know, ditching it and all. And then I ended up getting back in the band in, say, 2007. And then that became my thing. I was a guitarist in the wedding band, back and singer, you know, and that was me for 12 years. And that was my full-time job. But in amongst that, you do gigs like you play, you know, in bars and stuff as well. And one of the years, Ireland were playing England. You may have been playing. It would have been 2000 and what year was it? Maybe 14 or 15. And it was on St. Paddy's Day in Twickenham. Ireland beat England, and I remember this is how wrapped up in the music I was. We were in the bot was going mental. St. Paddy's Day, Ireland playing England, everybody's coming up, you know, the place was bunged. Big screen down behind the drum kit. I'm ready to watch. Next thing you know, everybody just starts going nuts when Ireland are, you know, flying.
Oh, that's a nightmare.
People are hitting the cymbals. I'm taking. So I spent the whole game watching the crowd like some mad steward. You know, didn't watch any of the fucking game. Just like protecting like these, you know, knockoff guitars that we were playing and all. And I was like the divergence there, and the, you know, sort of, you were probably up to it, and I'm just going, get down to that. That's a PV speaker, second-hand PV speaker. We only borrowed that. You know, it was just such a shit time. Like, I wanted to be able to enjoy it, couldn't.
That's I've had a lot of conversations with people about whenever I was on the pitch doing that. Everybody remembers where they were at a particular event. If it was a remarkable result, or if it was Paddy's Day or something, everybody remembers where they were watching that, and everybody's got a story to tell around that. 2014 it was. We beat France in Paris to win the Six Nations that year, and that was kind of my one time whenever I kicked on and played really well. And that, you know,
scored a try in Paris.
That's right. Yeah. So like that was finally I've got here and I've actually fulfilled what I thought was, you know, my potential, and so that was such a relief for me. But anyway, that was being a part of that. I was just so relieved. Amazing experience being part of it. Great bunch of lads, and we, you know, achieved something pretty, you know, we were very proud of. So Barry Murphy, who was telling you about, by contrast, he was on tour with Hermitage Green in Canada or America anyway, and he used to play 13 for Munster. And O'Driscoll retired that time, so obviously, like, when you think of 13 in Irish rugby, you think of O'Driscoll, not Barry. But Barry just took a notion. I think it was a forfeit or something. Anyway, a double dare. I don't know, but he got a massive tattoo of 13 on his back, and it is the most ridiculous, stupid looking, and it's so unlike him because he's a singer in a band. He's cool. He dresses well. And he made this stupid decision to get this ridiculous tattoo on his back, so he's got like 13 on his back.
And you've seen it, like, it's
That just looks like a tribute to Brendan
To
Driscoll.
Driscoll, I know.
It doesn't look like.
No, I
It's
know.
not for him at all.
I don't even think he could explain why he did it. But again, he was getting a tattoo whenever I was doing that in Paris.
Yeah,
And
you
I was
remember?
Yeah, and he remembers. Oh, that you were doing that, and I was doing this, and same thing. You get that quite a bit, actually.
Yeah. In 1999, then to go back to your year, like sort of what were you like? Did you have a look? What were you wearing? Like, because a lot of people in the whatever band they were into kind of influenced what they wore. What were you?
I had so big pair of baggy black
Oh,
combats
brilliant.
with like a semicircle at the back, a semicircle at the back and the heel. Do you know where it
Oh
kinda
yes,
rubs?
I thought you were
Yeah.
talking about the arse.
No,
Like they're,
sorry.
they're arseless.
Yeah, I could see the look in you too. Like, we're gonna
But
cut
no, what you
this
mean
bit
is
out.
the very functional bit where if they dragged on the ground,
Yeah.
so you
It
would always
almost
get,
flares them
yeah,
further, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So we wore those, and I had I think it would have been in around the time whenever I had the chain that connects to my wallet from my belt with all of that, and I got I think that would have been the year I got my ear pierced.
Mm-hmm.
Got a little stud at the top of my ear in jingles and Korean for couldn't have been more than $3.99.
Brilliant.
I mean, if you were paying by the hour, I mean, it took them about 30 seconds. Come in here, son. There you go. But it did get infected, and then I had to get it redone.
That's the $3.99 element of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
You may get an ear infection. And like, what were you doing with your hair? Very interested. Obviously.
I think of it like a spiky kind of look.
Yeah.
Um,
Offspring kind of.
Offspring, yes, yeah.
That's what I'm getting. I'm just seeing the Offspring here.
Offspring, and I think I actually dyed my hair red at one stage, but it wasn't. It was like a spray, you know.
Yeah, the spray can
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of similar. You were a wee bit more extreme than me because I was into a lot of the rock music, but I also lived in West Belfast, and a lot of my mates weren't into that. So I had to kind of like trade, between two worlds of being sort of a bit more schmick, but at the same time wanting to be, and you could get accused of being a hippie. Like, if you grew your hair beyond like the length just over your ears, you were called a hippie.
Yeah.
So I would have done that where I wanted a pair of black combats, but I couldn't find them anywhere, and the one time I got them, do you remember like when you go into the town or whatever on like a Saturday, and 20 quid would have been enough to get you'd buy a shirt for that weekend, and like enough to get you out for a few pints or whatever with your
20
mates.
quid was
20 was a lot,
Yeah.
but I wanted a pair of black combats. I went into a place, remember in Belfast, NV, Geno's you called it. There was a place called Gino, and it did like kind of cheap kind of trying to be fashionable clothing, and it was closing, and I went down the back, and the mate were closing. Yeah, just quick, and I found the right pair, right my size, brilliant. Bought them, didn't try them on. I was like, they'll do me. Stuck them in the bag. Went on the bus with my mate home. Happy days. Got home, and it was like in the era where I was only like 15, where we would go out walking the streets. Like we going to the shop was a big thing because you would walk past groups of girls and maybe stand and chat to them for a wee minute. So you got dressed up to go out to look for girls, and on the way to the shop. So we got into the street, and all our mates were at the bottom of the street. Come on, we're going up. So this is the whole procession. You had to get changed. I mean, hold on, we're going to get changed. Wanted to stick my combats on, so I ran up the stairs into my room in the attic, which had been converted into more of a storage space than a bedroom, if I'm honest with you. There was no lights in it or anything at this stage, and that's just where I slept. I went up, no lights. I'm sticking these combats on. As I was sticking them on, I was like, that's a bit of a weird sound, and I felt, I was like, that material's not really, and I was like, I should have put these on in the shop. So I just stuck them on anyway, and I was running down the stairs, and they were making a noise, like, so I was like, oh no, and I walked out into the street, and I was committed to it, and everybody could see, there's like, and they were laughing, and these things, like, oh, look at Paddy, he's wearing a pair of cowboy chaps, and they were leather, kind of like a PVC leather, the fucking tassels down the side, like drawstring tassels, and all my mates were killing themselves, and I was like, I've committed to this, so I'm going to have to just keep going.
Wear it.
So we walked, and I would try to be confident, and there was people laughing as we were, like, girls, like, they just made a big thing about it, and years later, we were out in a bar, and my sister-in-law, who's about like maybe 5 years younger, was talking to a mate, and he's like, oh, is your brother-in-law Paddy PVC? And I was like, Paddy PVC? Is that? And I couldn't remember. I was like, why you call me Paddy? That's not my name. He was like, yes, it is. And I was like, no. And I was like, we lived in Brook Crescent, and we always remember you used to run about in a pair of BBC cowboy chaps. I was like, I wore them once, never wore them again, and I didn't realize I was getting called Paddy BBC because of these squeaky chaps. But I wanted a pair of good sort of baggy combats, but I couldn't go that far.
I
So I ended up
stumbled
getting a
across
pair
them.
of
I don't
chaps.
know where I got them from, but I remember just getting very, very lucky. I stumbled across them in the Rugby. I don't know where these came from, but I didn't buy them. They just, I don't know how they just entered my life. They were perfect. And yeah, the chain. And then I had a pair of Green Flash, Dunlop Green Flash.
Oh yes.
Don't
Yeah.
remember them.
Yeah, they were like kind of the precursor to Converse.
Oh, the thicker kind of ones? No, or am I thinking of the what ones? Am I
Green
thinking of?
laces, and they had like the wee plastic kind of semicircle at the
Yeah,
front,
yeah.
semicircles everywhere. I was wearing back then.
Well, it's been great talking to you, Andrew. Thanks for
Yeah, the
joining
drummer
us.
at Crèche,
I look
thanks.
forward to Crèche reforming now that
Yeah.
you've kicked all that rugby stuff, knocked that in the head.
Yeah, look
Get
forward
back to
to
your roots. Here,
Cheers.
thanks very much. All right.
Thanks, Paddy.